All right, today is January 22. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. We're going to go through our agenda doc. It's linked in the calendar invite. If you have anything that you want to discuss, please feel free to add to it. First, we're going to go over the 136 items that have been committed by this SIG. Some upcoming deadlines to be aware of. The next deadline is February 4 for production readiness freeze. So if there's any items that you've committed to for this release, please be aware of that deadline. We need to make sure all the production readiness reviews are completed by then. You can follow this link to understand what the requirements are. And then we'll come back to the remaining discussion points, but let's go ahead and jump into the 136 planning spreadsheet and get status updates. So with that, we're gonna switch over here. First item that we have is CSI Volume Health, working on updating the design, staying in alpha this cycle. Uh, Hamant, do you have an update on this?
Not today. I still am working on updating the cap and building a consensus around the APIs. So yeah, I hope to
Sounds
get
good.
it done by the feature freeze.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Hamant. Next is change block tracking. This is moving from from alpha to beta this cycle.
Yeah, so Carl is
Last
still, sorry, yeah, Carl is still working on a cap. He has not submitted yet.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, Ching. Next up, we have volume attribute class. This is GAs that feature gate lock to true and sidecar changes for GA plus error handling. Do we still have changes left here?
I think other than remove the future gate completely, but that's a few release away.
Okay. So effectively done for this cycle, and then we'll have to come back and so in a few releases. Future gate. Right, it's done. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So we'll just go ahead and mark that as done. And I'll move this to the bottom so it's out of the way. Cool. Next up, we have volume group snapshot moving to GA from beta. Any updates on this one?
Yeah, I updated the cap, submitted PR for that. We are also working on adding E2E tests and unit tests.
Cool. Thank you, Shane. Next, we have CSI sidecar all-in-one moving to alpha this cycle.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the naming of our new repo today. So yeah, maybe we can talk about later.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Let me
Mm.
take a note and we'll come back to that.
hmm
It's actually CSI driver controller got it wrong last time. The other suggestion.
CSI what?
CSI driver controller, not CSI sidecar controller.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
naming coming, but I know you have concern. We can talk about that later. Yeah, it's okay.
yeah.
Let's
Mm.
discuss later. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll come back to this. Let me just put your name down. Ying. Okay, next up we have mutable CSI node allocatable property. Targeting GA this cycle, moving from beta. Anything new here?
So there is a cap already out.
Cool, thank you, Shing. Next, we have Cozy overall moving to V1 Alpha 2 from V1 Alpha 1. Any updates on this one?
Yeah, the cap is all updated based on discussion from prior weeks. So still waiting on reviews. There is one, I would call it a minor thing to ask about later.
Got it.
That
Okay.
shouldn't affect the reviewability.
Cool. Thanks for the update, Blaine. Next, we have integrate CSI volume limits with autoscaler staying in alpha this cycle.
Yeah, so
Yeah, go ahead,
it's
Aman.
staying in alpha, but I have made a we are proposing to make the change that prevents power scheduling to nodes which don't have CSI driver install an opt-in via CSI driver object field actually. Like previously we were doing it by default, but then we found some edge cases such as autoscaler that doesn't know anything about CSI could break because of that. So as a result, we thought it's best to keep the new behavior and opt-in even when it goes GA, and it will allow us to decouple the autoscalers from the Kubernetes scheduler changes. So,
Got it. And next steps here are going to be updating the cap to capture that, or?
yeah, the cap update has been made and it's been merged already for
Oh, okay.
136. It's just ready for work.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Amanth. And I'm going to go ahead and move these items out of the way since they've been crossed out. Okay, next item we have is co-owned with SIGAuth CSI driver opt-in for service account tokens via secret fields targeting GA and 136. Let me correct this. GA. So I guess there was an open question about whether this would be happening or not in 136.
It is, I checked it, is a targeting GA. Cap is already out. I already approved it from storage side. So basically waiting for PRR approval.
Awesome. Thank you, Shing. I'm going to go ahead and mark this one as started. Next, we have remove git repo in tree plugin code cap feature flag enabled by default beta on 136. So let's change this to beta alpha. Any update on this one?
Yeah, so cap author says he's targeting beta. I think there are some questions on what to do with this, whether to just lock it enable because it's like set it to false, right? So there's some discussion. He asked him a question on what to do with this. It's
Got
like
it.
it's a little confusing. It's like you're disabling this thing. It's different from adding a new feature.
Got it. Okay. So progress being made and some open questions being followed up on. Next is SE Linux relabeling using mount points. Any update on this one?
So I think Jan is not here. So the intent is like SLNX change policy, which allows users to opt out of the whole new, because the going ahead, the default of Kubernetes will be to use mount option to apply SLNX policies. So if a user is negatively affected by the change, they can opt out by changing the SLNX change policy. So SLNX change policy, FeatureGate, and the SLNX read write one spots because those are safe as well, because the volume is being mounted only once. So these two feature gates are going GA in 136, and we intend to move the SLNX mount feature, which actually will default to always using mount options for applying SLNX labels, will go GA in next release.
Seems like it's mostly on track for 136, the 136 pieces.
Yeah, I think the enhancement update is open, and let's see, I think I reviewed it. It's mostly okay. I don't know if somebody else reviewed it. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for the update, Hemant. Next, we have CSI migration, Portworx moving to GA in 133, remove feature gate and entry plugin in 136. So this is for removing the feature gate and the entry plugin. Any update on this one?
Yeah, so PI is already out. I don't know if it's merged or not. I think it's there are some reviews and some comments, but it's getting close, I think.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Xing. Let me mark this one as started as well. Okay, next we have always honor reclaim policy GA in 133, remove feature gate in 136. So this should be fairly straightforward. Any update on this one?
Yeah, Clara has already submitted PR, so for review.
Okay. Mark this one as started as well. Next we have snapshot topology moving to alpha this cycle. Last update, we didn't have one. Anything new here?
Yeah, so Rafael looks like he's not in the meeting. He said he want to submit a cap. So we're waiting for that. I asked him to open a enhancement issue. So
Perfect.
target it.
And then we have volume replication design.
So I added this item last time, because I think, let's see, actually Martin is in the call today. So that we can start discussion. And I think yesterday at Data Protection One Group, we briefly talked about this. I think Martin couldn't join yesterday. So you have any comments, Martin? Or you'll be able to join the next Data Protection One Group to talk more about this? Or does that time
Yes.
work? Okay.
The short answer is that I had a one-time conflict with the data protection working group. We were actually talking to another partner about what we're hoping to do there, and they expressed interest, and I hope they show up. I started discussions in the data protection working group channel on the Slack.
Okay. Great.
And at the moment, there are certain aspects of the CSI add-ons as currently spec'd that need some pressure testing from commercial array vendors to see if they're doing the right things. We're getting some of that feedback, but we'll go through the process. Whatever is needed, whatever is defined. When we have consensus that we've got the right stuff to submit the cap, we'll submit the cap and work through whatever process needs to happen at that point.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk more in the next meeting.
All right. Thank you both. Next, we have report when PVC was last used. Anything new on this one?
The cap is open and it's being reviewed. I do not know if so what was the sorry Arvind is not there in that meeting, right? Yeah, the cap is open, it's being reviewed. It looks to be on track. It should be fairly straightforward.
Perfect.
I hope to
Cool.
implement.
Thanks, Amon. And then finally, we have volume attribute class, a GA set feature gate lock to truth, plus CSI driver changes and error handling. Anything new on this one? Oh, this is already done. Sorry, I just moved it down. My bad. So we are done with status updates here. I'm going to switch back to our agenda and we can get updates on the miscellaneous items. So Blaine, you're up first. You want to talk through this one?
Yeah, I'll do my best to like kind of set the stage here. So this is coming up. In the past week, I identified a race condition that we have in Cozy that could be pretty rare, but it could leave like orphans around. And I I think some of this is coming up because like there is a little bit of difference between like what the CSI like protocol definitions are versus what Cozy is. And I think in the Cozy designs we have a bit more of an expectation on item potency for the operations versus when I look at like the PVC controllers, I can see that they keep track of like their sort of like almost like a state machine state of like, okay, this thing is done, and their internal tracking for operations that may have been completed but not fully matched to the API. So one of the options we have, so I think we still need to evaluate the options on our side for how we actually want to resolve this, but one of the options we have is to actually stop keeping track of bucket ID and account ID, which are, I think CSI spec calls these volume ID, is the like analog. And before we like continue more seriously considering that, I want to make sure that there isn't something that's like intrinsically important about keeping track of a volume ID that is separate from a different item potency key in a storage API.
That seems like a weird question because the volume ID is a crucial part of the CSI API. I don't understand what the alternative could possibly be.
So the alternative that I have proposed that our Cozy meeting is later today, where I'll talk to like Sing and the other developer more about it. But we have this concept. So I'll just start with like the create bucket API. So when that begins, we use the name of the bucket item potency key. So at the core level, it's like create, you say to the driver, create a bucket with this item potency key. And, let's say that updating the Kubernetes resource fails, then it'll just go and it'll call driver create bucket again with that same item potency key.
This key, is that the name or is it something else you're talking about?
It is, in the spec, it's called the name.
So it's okay, bucket name. That's kind of same as CSI, right? CSI will also give a name.
Yeah, and I think, right, like the importance, I think name is a little strange to me, but the importance is that it's like an item potency key. Like this is like Cozy is essentially identifying this is the transaction, and the backend can do whatever it wants with that information, as long as it understands Cozy's use of that.
But on the CSI side, we only use that at create time and then create returns in ID, and then that's used henceforth. So are you saying on the Cozy side, it's not that way? That you just continue using? Go ahead.
Yeah, it is that way. Currently, it is that way in the Cozy spec. There is like, it is that way in the Cozy spec, but we're not keeping track of, and we don't have like right, like the Kubernetes API server has like different, right, it has like HA essentially, and it keeps track of like, I started this operation didn't get recorded systemically, right? So, right, that volume ID or bucket ID in our case has to be recorded on the Kubernetes object. So then if that Kubernetes API update fails and then the user decides they don't want the bucket then Cozy doesn't have a bucket ID in order to request deletion. And so my proposal is that, right, looking at this thing like as a whole, the create bucket needs to be idempotent, which means that the backend needs to have some way of deterministically taking that bucket name and identifying what the bucket ID is that it's going to create.
You're referring to a classic problem we have with CSI, which is if create fails and it fails and it fails and it fails, you have no way to delete any partially created thing because you just have to keep calling create until it succeeds. Then you can call delete.
Right.
That's a well-known problem, and we've discussed that a few times on the CSI side. I don't know if there are so what is the proposal? Is it stop using the ID and just let you delete with the idempotency key and not the ID? Is that the thing?
Yeah, that is the proposal.
But is the proposal to get rid of IDs altogether and always use the name?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like there's probably a downside to that, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
In CSS side, I think it's like a combination of things, not just the name, right? It's like you have other parameters, right? So you look at all the input parameters. Driver needs to make sure that is idempotent, but it's not just on the name, I think.
So Saad, you were around at the beginning of CSI. Do you recall the reason why we rely on IDs generated by the SP and not just the name forever?
I need to go back and dig into it to remember.
Yeah, I think there has to be a specific reason because it seems like there's a lot of value there. I just can't remember off the top of my head what the value
I
is.
think it was something along the lines of like, we don't want to be in a position of trying to guess what will work for the storage system, and it's better for the storage system to just tell us, hey, this is the string that if you come back to us, we will know what you're talking about. And if the storage system generated it, it's much more likely to actually work than us trying to guess. That was, I think, the logic, but I need to go back and think through it again.
Yeah, I think that there was also an assumption that create would either succeed quickly or fail in such a way that like no garbage was left behind.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is still the right in the gRPC spec for Cozy, that is still explicitly stated as it is in the CSI spec. The race condition is if the create succeeds, but the the update that Cozy does after that to keep track of it as a Kubernetes resource failed, and then the delete happens, then we essentially would need to do a create.
Okay. So you're not concerned about getting stuck. You're just concerned about like losing that crucial bit of information that is succeed.
The same thing we are talking. Sunny has, but the create volume in like for PVC has the same problem. That's why I think Sunny had a proposal where like before the create is called by the driver, some information is recorded in PV objects so that we don't leak. And but
Right.
we have the same problem and we have been trying to solve it. And I think but we don't use it for everything. Like if you're gonna use name for as an item potency key for this, like create and delete, maybe we don't use it for everything else. I don't know if you should use it for everything in Uzi.
Lane, how is the bucket ID generated?
The bucket ID is just returned by the driver.
Is it possible for you to generate that ID first and pass it on to the driver?
Most definitely. I don't think that would be practically any different than the idempotency key. Right, we are generating, right, the name of the resource is generated from a UID, so it is statistically, globally, universally unique.
So if they are the same, then you always know what that is, right?
That's sort of the thought train that I have been on, is that because that creation operation needs to be idempotent, it means that the driver, in at least one context, needs to be able to determine its internal resource name based on the item potency key. And it seems reasonable to me to just expect the driver to do that every time. I do also understand like there could be ways that the driver doesn't want that. In the way that I got around this with object bucket claims, which are sort of like the cozy prototype, is that we don't use gRPC there, but I made an API where the provisioner would request an ID from the driver before any operations actually begin. So it basically does like a pre-operation that says, hey, here's my item potency key. Tell me what you want to use as the ID here. And then the driver returns that ID. The system stores it. And then that is used, right? Even for creation, that is used. So that is something we could do instead. That's one of the
Okay.
use of.
That's what I was thinking of something similar. Just to be clear, you're saying before you create, you convert the item potency key into the ID. Say like, what is it going to be before you create it? Then you
Right.
call create with that. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Still, I'd have to think through like, how could that go wrong? It feels like a potentially good answer.
Okay. So it seems like there are concerns with continuing to use the item potency key forever for all operations, but it could be, given like a little more thought about it, it could be useful to, before any driver operations begin, we request an ID from the driver.
It would be tricky for driver to return such a value. I don't know if it's possible.
Come on, you're saying it would be hard to generate the ID before you create the volume
Yeah. Because
bucket?
yeah, the driver has to store some state somewhere, or I don't know how it will do that. So
Yeah, that's where my mind was going, was if you did it that way, and if someone called that API to turn a item potency key into an ID and then never called anything ever again, you would just have the same problem where now you're leaking state. There has to be a follow-up that says, okay, I'm done with this thing, clean up your state. And that's what create and delete were supposed to be. That's why every create's always followed by a delete. And yeah, and the big problem is just that there's no way to get to delete if create hasn't succeeded yet. So maybe there needs to be a flavor of a create return failure with ID or something, so that you can fail and say, hey, I didn't create it, but here's your ID in case you want to give up and just delete it.
I think the problem that Blaine ran into, actually the creation was successful. It's just
Yeah, I mean,
trying
but
to
it's a
add.
different flavor, right? Because the correct follow-up would be just to retry, because you would know that you would always have to get to a successful state and then delete it if you didn't want to, if you actually wanted to give up.
Right, but from the perspective of a reconciler that's not keeping all
Well,
of the
there
like
you'd have to do
historical
what
state.
something similar to the proposed fix on the volume side, which is have a state machine bit that gets set before you call create that says, hey, I'm calling create. Therefore, don't delete this until you follow up and do the deletion, right? You'd have to store the fact that you would
Oh,
call create, and we don't do that today. You're right that you can call create and then forget about the response and then leak resources, which is yeah. So you still have to solve that problem. But if you solve that problem and then you create a way to fail creation with an ID response, then you also create a way to get out of an endless failure loop, which is the other issue we have with the IDs and item potency keys.
Right, yeah. And from the perspective of like, right, I am a reconciler. I'm trying to reconcile the deletion of this thing. Unless I think it would be hard to keep the right information around that says, this thing doesn't have an ID recorded. I don't know if that's because the prior creation failed or if the prior creation succeeded and then there was a hiccup. So I think both of those cases are issues and they have different flavors, like you said. But yeah, we can continue to talk about the like create or fail with ID, especially for this like deletion case to potentially help with that.
I don't know if Cozy has defined like states like final errors or things like that. It would be good to have that defined. We didn't do good job in CSI. We are assuming now certain errors to be final errors and all in the sidecars, but like so
Yeah,
that yeah.
we do have retriable versus non-retriable errors. So there is a subset of RPC returns where Cozy will just stop retrying, although it will, right? Like
Yeah,
there's not a lot of like state keeping logic. Cozy will retry it if the like controller is restarted, for example.
what you want though is also an error that says I failed and I didn't leave any garbage behind, and so you can just walk away and never clean up, right? I
Right.
don't know if there's a way to return that message.
Yeah, I mean, I've been assuming that's kind of like a requirement and an assumption that the driver, right? If the driver fails during some creation or some sort of operation, like it should clean up
I think
before
you
it returns an error.
need to have some control logic in Cozy to handle that as well. If let's say driver returns that's a retriable error, then even if the bucket claims getting deleted, you will still try to call the driver to delete it when it's finally created. So that's like the non-final error that I was talking about earlier. I'm not sure if Cozy has that logic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar enough with the like CSI and PVPVC code to know exactly what the retriable or the final versus non-final errors are. I just know that we have something that sounds a little similar in that we have some errors that Cozy and the RPC protocol agrees that a certain subset of errors won't be retried. Like they're considered just to be like Cozy couldn't make progress on this because of the nature of the error versus like errors that will be retried.
Let's say if your bucket, it's still being created, it's not bound yet, and user decides to delete the bucket claim, what will happen for that underlying bucket when it's finally created?
Assuming the reclaim policy is delete, then right the system overall will try to delete the bucket. The bucket claim won't delete until the bucket is gone. But bucket deletion does currently need the ID, so it does either need creation to
So
have succeeded before.
basically you hold that off because you have some finalizer. You do not allow the bucket to be deleted. You create the bucket early, right? You create the bucket before you actually call the driver. Is that so?
I
You
don't
create the
quite
bucket
understand.
CR before. Okay, do you create the bucket CR before you call the driver to actually create the bucket?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe in that case, maybe okay, because you're kind of holding off with the finalizer. Yeah, PVPVC's case because the PV is created later after the volume is really created. So if you create the bucket CR early, then maybe you're fine.
Yeah, there is some protection for orphans by doing that, right? Like Cozy won't or it shouldn't allow the bucket resource to be deleted as long as there's a backend resource still around. It's just like this case where the bucket ID hasn't been determined yet that it becomes hard. Like we could get in a state where we can't proceed with deletion. And yeah, and maybe this, maybe another way of resolving this could be a new call, or like some sort of like modification to the existing delete call where we give it the name, the idempotency key, and the ID, and we set some we document that if the ID is missing, then the driver will have to do the best they can with the idempotency key to ensure the resource is deleted. I don't know if that would also be sufficient. And that could also presumably be a different actual function call entirely, since it can be somewhat confusing to include two different identifiers for a thing.
Yeah, maybe as a next step, Blaine, it might be worth writing down the options that you're thinking through and take it to a PR or a CAP.
Yeah, I was I was really not expecting this to actually be this complicated, but I will do that. We have a GitHub issue, which I don't remember if I linked it or not. I think I did, but I will update that with the options that we have for future discussion.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for bringing the discussion here. Let's move to the next one. Yingqi, trying to figure out what the name of this all-in-one repo should be. It sounds like there's some debate.
Yeah. In my point of view, this CSI driver controller may not suitable for node driver register. Yeah, this is my major concern. Yeah, because we integrate the node driver register into the all-in-one repo as well, so it's a little bit unsuitable for that.
Why did we integrate node driver registrar in that? That has to run separately with the. That doesn't seem right.
Yeah. That's another question. We want to divide the whole CSS sidecar repo into two artifacts, which one of this is control plane. Maybe this artifact is combination of sidecar and controller, and the node plane, that is the node register, but it's all in same repo, but two artifact. Yeah.
That doesn't buy us anything because the node has to. There's only one node component and it has to run separately.
Yeah. So your suggestion that we don't integrate the node driver register into all-in-one repo?
Yes, strong yes.
Yeah.
It's completely different thing. It's completely different thing. It doesn't
Mhm.
do what other sidecars do. It's yeah.
Okay, I got you opinion. Okay, I will take that back to into our group. We will talk about that because the cap originally the originating cap was include this. Yeah, so we follow the origin or we follow the origin cap, so we don't eliminate this node driver out of the
But the main motivation for
repo. Yeah.
this was to reduce effort to maintain a bunch of different repos and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
And
all the churn for the developers, right? And so if we get
and
to go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, that too is one, but that's largely like kind of automated in some to some. But the one of the other motivation was to reduce like the memory uses of running all the different sidecars. Like you have the shared informer and all the stuff that are
Yeah,
there
yeah.
to
Well,
yeah.
that's where I was going to go
Sorry.
is that having leaving the node driver side or it's not a sidecar, the container out of the out of does solve those other problems. It just doesn't. It just we still have a little bit of effort to maintain two repos,
I mean,
but
which
yeah,
is
doesn't
yeah.
seem like the end of
Sorry.
the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It won't result in any memories or any of the resource saving that we were hoping for anyways, because node registrar
Right,
at the end of
right.
the day has to run separately. So
Hey, Inchi, what are you doing with the snapshot controller? I forgot. Like the
oh, I
CSS.
would
Well,
just yeah,
Go ahead.
I would
be,
sorry, go ahead.
because snapshot controller was in external snapshotter, right? So
Yes,
we will integrate all two of them into the all-in-one repo. Yeah.
but the snapshot controller, the common controller, that has to run separately, right? That cannot be part of your sidecar container, right?
Yeah, but I think they can be in one artifact, but with different different arguments.
Mm.
So if we sub specify controller snapshot controller, they can run independently. Yeah.
And what about the APIs? Because we also have APIs there, right? The CRDs.
Yeah, CRD was deployed by maintainer, CSS maintainer. Yeah.
Hmm?
They have
Okay.
no in
No, but that's also in that repo, right? So you have like a folder for
yeah,
the
yeah,
CRDs.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the CRD cannot be deployed by the CSI driver maintainer. It has to maintain. It's cluster global. It has to be maintained by the whatever the Kubernetes distro.
So yeah, so it's the like the common controller and the CRDs, those are like a yeah, distro thing, right? Only the sidecar is part of the driver maintainers responsibility to deploy. So now seems like we have mixed them. Okay, I'm going
Hmm.
to take another look of your cap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we had to consider if it is worth integrating snapshot controller into the sidecar
Yeah, but then
repository.
there are also a lot of like common code, right, for the snapshot controller, the common controller and the sidecar for snapshotter.
Right.
Common code. So if you separate them, it's also not good. So okay, we need to think think a little bit more about this.
And if you are going to integrate snapshot controller, then the my previous argument about the keeping node registrar out, it kind of
Yeah,
becomes yeah, kind of becomes
yeah.
moot.
Then
Yeah.
it's not sidecar. You cannot quit sidecar anymore if you have the common snapshot control. That's definitely not a sidecar. That it will be very confusing for people, right? So okay, so we need to take a closer look at the cap and think more. So
Yeah, and I want to submit a new options that how about the CSI driver manager? We can leave the divisions behind. So, um, how about CSI driver manager? This name? Yeah.
So at this point, I think the concern is not so much about name,
yeah,
but
we need to think
Yeah,
whether
more
I know. Yeah.
like what will be
Uh,
included, right? Like the
okay.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the node Java registry is one thing, then you are also including the common snapshot controller and the CRD is
Mm-hmm.
also that's another concern. So I think we need to think more
Okay.
if
about that.
if
Yeah.
we yeah, if we decide, okay, we are gonna put everything, the whole kitchen sink, snapshot controller, CRDs, node registrar, that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah.
We cannot call it sidecars anymore. It's not just sidecars, right? So okay, yeah. So let's think more.
Okay, so I will leave the cap so you
Yeah.
can comment on the cap, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you for bringing this up, Yichi. Sounds like there's some open questions we need to follow up in terms of what's being included in the all-in-one. And then based on that, we can decide what the name is. That makes sense. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns for today from anybody? All right, good discussion. Thanks, folks. We'll call it for today then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.